Hello, we are here today with Connor, who's won back-to-back locals with. Wait, where is it?
Dolphy.
Blue Doflamingo, the man's is back.
So, how do you feel about this deck? Why did you choose it?
I like this deck a lot. I've been a blue player since set 1, but now we have aggro options.
Nice.
And so just being able to play an aggro version of the deck rather than control when we used to get bodied by Kid, it feels good. It feels good.
Awesome. And do you remember your matchups?
Yes. So we've played against Vegapunk, NL. We've also played against Lucci. Lucci is quite an easy matchup for this deck, actually.
Okay.
We've also played against Corona.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also played against Blue Purple Kaido.
Okay, yeah, nice. And yeah, I mean, let's get into it. We'll talk about the matchups and stuff later.
Sweet. So first of all, we're going to start off with 4 of the best card in the deck. This is just Dofy effect on a body. It's our leader on a body, and we want to find it on our 3 Don curve. This deck lives on going first. For your 1 Don, you just pass. We don't have anything there. But for our 3 Don curve, swinging 5, don't let them think that you're on this kind of deck. You want them to think that you're a more control-y Dofy deck.
Okay.
We swing 5, they usually take, and then we just develop this body. And then we start going into a little bit more of the value 7 warlords. So we have Jinbei next. Jinbei is probably the best card in the deck.
Okay.
It just allows you to develop 2 bodies. It's rested, but you can just counter out because we never really play anything from our hand until late game.
I see.
The best targets a hit off of Jinbei, though, is the new Weevil from EB01.
Yep. Draw a card.
Yep, you just play him and you draw a card.
Yeah.
And if you're playing it from the top, if you're just playing a Jinbei from the top of your deck, and then you're playing this from your hand, drawing a free card, you're just getting a lot of pressure on board.
Yeah.
It's very early where it's really hard for them to stop. The main reason that these cards are really good is because ideally you want to start your curve off with the 3-drop. If you hit even just one Jinbei from the beginning, you can start spamming into Weevils, and you get 2 procs per turn. So sometimes you can get a full board. You start with your turn. You can swing 7, play 7 warlords off the top. Turn 2, if you hit a Jinbei, you go Jinbei into Dofy, and then you Dofy effect. If you happen to hit another Jinbei, then you have a full board.
Jeez.
So you just start gassing them, and you just want to be as aggro as possible.
Yeah.
Swinging for 7s is the bread and butter of this deck.
Yeah.
Then we've got one of the other best cards in the deck. Another really good target to play off of the Jinbei. The main thing with this is we just keep recycling our 2k counters.
Yeah.
Occasionally you can add this back if you've got enough Don to play with and you just want to start swarming board. But most of the time you're using it to either add back a 2k or you can add back blockers, and we have a couple blockers in the deck. Usually we're not using them for blocking, but we have them anyways. Then we've got 4 of the Vanilla Gecko Moria. This is just to apply pressure. It's one of the only 2 6,000 power 7 warlords.
I see.
And it makes it really hard for them to swing back into it.
Yeah.
Then we start going into our blockers. So we've got Boa Hancock. She's not a bad hit to get off. Usually for Boa, you've got so many other threats in the deck that people just leave it, and then you can start generating value off of her as either a blocker or attacker.
Nice.
Usually it's better to go as an attacker, and the only card that we don't use it as an attacker that often, and mainly a blocker, is Doflamingo. The best thing about this deck, we're playing 46 warlords, so if you
Always hit.
Yeah, you basically always hit. If you don't see anything that you like in your top 5, bot deck it, swing anyways, you'll probably hit something.
Right.
And it will probably be better than any of the cards that you saw beforehand.
True, yeah.
Then we have 4 Crocodile, who is just a 2k counter, and he's a 7 warlord. So you can play him. He also bounces 2 costs. So against NL, that's really good because you can bounce back their Shirahoshis, which they're playing for the Lucci matchup.
Yeah.
Most of the time he doesn't come up, but there are some niche situations where you do want to be using him because he can't bounce any of our cards. Next up, we've got Mihawk. Mihawk is really good to either hit off the top or to use as a 2k counter. They can always be added back, all of the 7 warlords 2ks. When you swing with him as well, we do have some cards without counter, so it lets you fall to your hand. You can find better targets to play off the top with Jinbei. Sometimes you can hard play Jinbei, and it just allows you to fix your hand throughout the game.
Nice.
Then we have 4 Trafalgar Law. Really good card. sometimes if you've got a very full board, you can try and stack them to the top with any of the stackers. You bounce them back just to get an extra 2k. If your opponent has 6 or more in hand, then you can make them discard one by bouncing it back. You get the 2k as well. The other thing you can do with him, if you're really pressed on targets, you can play him off of a Jinbei, leave him untapped. And then, especially against decks like Canal, you just attach 3 Don, swing 7. If they take, then you're just going to immediately bounce it back and then play something else. So it can apply pressure, and then it's also very good at just controlling board. These are a couple more of the more interesting targets, just to fill out the 46. There's a couple of different cards that you can go for. I personally like Weevil just because he's a good way to be able to stack your deck. It's just Don times 1 when attacking, check the top 3 stack. For a lot of the other stackers, it takes a lot of Don to be able to use them. But this, especially if you're on even curve and your opponent's forced you off odd, you can just slam this down off of your leader effect and then just start stacking the best possible targets to the top. Especially since we're 46 Warlords, so if you find any of the non-Warlord cards, you can just get rid of them.
Yeah.
This is specifically for an O. We play 2 Gecko Moria because nobody reads the card. We play so many good targets. Like we play Jinbei, we play Boas. People usually swing into them. They don't even ask what this card does. For example, one of the matchups I played was purple. They were playing red purple Luffy. I had them at 2 life, and then this was developed along with a Boa and a Weevil. They got rid of the Boa, got rid of the Weevil. They're at 2 life, and I went, I'll swing 13, double attack, and they're like, that card has an effect. So it's just a really good card to try and get tempo, especially against an L. You develop it with a full board. Against an L, you don't really want to develop too many. You don't want to swing too hard at them. You want to keep them at 2 life, develop a big board, get this out with a full board, and then just try and threaten lethal in one push. And our last card is for Charlotte Pudding. The bread and butter. The reason why we're playing this is because one of our hardest matchups is in L, but it helps to mitigate their hand size. Same thing with Black Yellow Luffy. If they're not playing those decks, it's still a really good card because we're constantly swinging 7. So a lot of the time you'll find people take the first 5, you just start swinging 7s, they're going to keep taking. And then if you don't have the 3-drop, on your 7 Don turn, you can play Pudding and then just keep swinging 7s. On your 9 Don turn, if you do have the Dofi, you can use Baby Dofi effect. You can Pudding and then you can just start swinging out.
Jeez, very cool.
Very different. No secrets. Pretty budget friendly deck actually.
Yeah, everything is 4-drop or lower, so we don't have a high end. But we just aim to kill them before they get to theirs.
Yeah. Very cool. So what would you say your toughest matchup is?
I would say your toughest matchup is an L.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, though, if you high roll, so if you hit a lot of Jinbeis or you hit a lot of very good cards at the top of your deck, you're in a really good position. Most of the time, though, what you're aiming to do is you want to be able to just swing into their board as much as possible, leave them at 2 life, develop a full board, and then just swing out in 1 turn. You want to try and lethal them before they can get to their high end.
Right. Cool. And how about Lucci matchup? Like, because this deck, everything's a 4 cost. Lucci's pretty good at removing that stuff. How would you play around it?
Lucci is one of the easier matchups I've had, actually.
Yeah.
The reason why it's so easy is because a lot of the time when I'm playing Lucci, you still develop that 3-drop, the essential 3-drop at the beginning of the game. So you develop the 3-drop Dofi. A lot of the time, Lucci usually starts popping off a little bit more towards the mid game, which is when they have the actual trash to be able to use Lucci.
Yeah.
So they let this sit for 1 turn, and then you start developing 2 bodies every turn. So you're asking them Lucci me twice every turn.
Yeah.
If they don't kill this because they're more scared of the 6k threats, then you're fine with that. You keep swinging at face. You never touch their Luccis. Their Luccis are sitting there trying to swing into you, but you just keep adding back 2ks, countering, and they get to a point where they don't have any KO outlets anymore. And at that point, you just keep swinging 7s, and the dead cards in their hand, which is their high end, never really get to be played.
Yeah. It's they don't have the opportunity to, or they just lose if they do play it. Yeah. Very cool. All right, congratulations. Again, it's good to see Dofi back to life.
Absolutely. I love my hairy league gang.
Any last words? Any shout outs?
Shout outs to Sahu for putting me on this deck. I was originally thinking of playing normal Dofi. But he showed me what this deck could do, and I started tinkering with it and having a look. Another version you can play, which has I would say it's got a very different matchup spread. Is instead you can play 48 Warlords and you can play 2 Perfume, which has a lot better stability against things like Lucci, against Black Yellow Luffy, because you just Perfume and then you swing for that last life. But I think that this one has a much better matchup spread.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Connor.
Thank you so much for having
Congratulations,
me.
and yeah, we'll see you again.
Sweet.